So once again, welcome. I believe you have a very interesting hour ahead of you, that we have a whole series of speakers. This is the third out of 4 webinars on open educational resources. I think maybe I should turn my email off so that doesn't happen, but we'll be fine for the moment. We are going to have it in several phases. There's a whole variety of people who are going to be talking. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you need to hear this presentation either by calling and using the phone number access here, or using your mic and speakers. We are not going to be, let me just make this point, we're not going to be using voices very often from our attendees. We had 351 folks who have registered for this webinar as of about an hour ago. So we are going to keep everyone muted except the presenters, and they may choose to mute themselves when they aren't speaking, depending on the background going on. And in terms of presenters, we have a whole variety of folks. There's at the top of the hour, as soon as we get started, Mitchell Levy from Happy About in College Open Textbooks will be talking to Rob Abel. And Rob will be addressing the major questions that we posed in the description of the webinar. Who's developing, who should be, how are they doing it, what standards are part of that. And when that is done, we are going to be moving towards folks who will talk about 2 things. One, we'll be talking about models for developing content. And Jeff Kane from the College of the Redwoods and Jackie Kane from Tacoma Community College will address 2 totally different techniques, if you will, on how development takes place, where they get the resource, where they get the funding, and who supports them. And in between that, Phil Moss, Daniel Williamson, and I will be talking about some authoring tools you can use for creating content. Actually, Jeff is going to immediately follow Mitchell and Rob and their initial pieces, and then we'll talk to Jeff, then we will hear from Phil, and then I will show a video of Dan Williamson talking about the Connections authoring tool. Then I'm going to talk about SoftChalk, and then we'll end with Jackie. Now, as you can see, we are using Twitter. So if you want to join us in Twitter, twittering and creating tweets, it'll be our treat to have that piece join us. So let me just, one last piece before we get started. This is your panel, pretty much, as it looks on your screen. And one of the things you will notice is that there are places that will minimize the panel. Notice right here, that'll push it off to the side of the screen if it's getting in the way of the presentation. Now, if you want to open it up so that you can use the question and answer, you can push that same button. It'll open it back up to the mode you see now, and you can put your comments in here, ask any questions. We are going to respond to the questions if it's timely and we can interrupt the speaker. If not, we'll wait to the very end. But we will try to respond in this area. Both Mitchell Levy and I will be monitoring the Q&A, so please feel free to respond to us, and we'll try to get the questions answered. So again, these are the folks. Let's see if I can find the yes, there we go. This is going to be the presentation. So I'm going to move over and ask Mitchell and Rob to take it on, and I'm turning the presentation over to Rob, so we'll see his screen. And Mitchell and Rob, you're on.
Great, thanks Steve, really appreciate it, and thanks everyone for attending. Looks like the audience is growing, and hopefully the attentive level of people there will get more exciting as we get into the content of the material. My name's Mitchell Levy. I run the marketing, I'm the marketing chair for College Open Textbooks, and that URL is collegeopentextbooks.org. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about anything you hear today or about either writing or publishing in the open textbook market, please feel free to give me a call, and my email's here and also will appear at the end of the material. The one thing I'd like to mention, Rob, if you could move to the next slide, the one thing I'd like to mention is that we have a grant program that we're currently running, helping those who are building the building open textbook and trying to build communities into what they're doing. So there's a super long URL that you could see, but what you can do, if you go to collegeopentextbooks.ning.com, one of the first posts there will be announcing the grant program. And you can receive up to $2,500 if you submit your entry by September 26th. And we are excited about the requests that we've received so far, but there are still opportunities and there are still grants waiting to be awarded. So if you can, please please go to collegeopentextbooks.ning.com and participate.
Yeah, Mitchell,
And,
let me add that this is kind of a precursor to OER 4, which is taking place at the end of October 31st, which is talking about grant and other funding opportunities.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. Yeah, actually, that'll be a great session. So stay tuned for your emails, and we'll hope you see you there. So the next presenter, the person who's going to talk, is Rob Abel. Rob is the CEO of IMS Global Learning Consortium. And if you're familiar with what the efforts are that that Rob and his team does, that's great, because you're in the know. If you're not, they do some pretty amazing things in the interoperability standards world in the educational space. And if you don't know, go to their website. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I look forward to hearing Rob. And Rob, welcome. Glad you could make it today.
Hi, Mitchell. How are you? Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. It's great to be here. Hope you're all having a good Wednesday so far. I'm going to talk pretty briefly today. I'll give you a little bit of background about some of the things that we're doing in IMS, kind of relating to the how, I would say. IMS is a nonprofit worldwide consortium focused on interoperability of educational content, applications, and systems. We're kind of unique. We're one of the few places where the open and proprietary worlds kind of live and work side by side for the benefit of all. I think what I'm going to talk about here is pretty much a no-brainer in terms of OER, because really what we're talking about is a way to develop OER one way, and in which it can be used across many, many platforms, most of the platforms in education, and there are numerous benefits associated with that. But the context in which I wanted to talk about it, it has to do with kind of some of the larger issues around adoption of digital content and greater adoption of digital content, including OER.
Perfect. Thanks. Well, why don't you let's get rolling. I want to see interoperability in the OER space.
Yeah, so kind of a quick review. If for those of you that tuned in to webinars 1 and 2 in this great series, I learned a lot from that, and of course we learn a lot every day from our 160 member organizations worldwide. Of course, so we've heard about some really fabulous work, so we know there's great interest in OER today. We also know, though, OER is not new. When I came into IMS about 5 years ago, one of the first major presentations I did was in Tokyo to a large set of global organizations who had all been focused on OER for more than, I think, 5 years at that time, including Merlot. And in 2006, 2007, IMS standards were involved in a major Hewlett-funded project around OER called OpenLearn, in which the Open University in the UK published some 500 courses freely available, and they're still there today. both from their website and from ours. But I think there's a much greater interest in the last year, couple of years or so. Cost of textbooks is a big issue, but also control and flexibility of the content is a big issue. And of course, there's a lot of new investment that's coming into the market here, including some new publishers who are focused on OER. So there's lots of great communities and projects. You've heard a lot about that in this series, and you're going to hear more today, and so forth. But there was also some discussion in the previous webinars of, is this more of a supply side or a demand side kind of driven phenomena right now? And there was a general conclusion that this is probably more of a supply side phenomena right now. And what I wanted to talk about, since in IMS we actually are involved with quite a few content providers, again, both open and proprietary, is sort of where we are in the transition from here to there. Where are we in terms of being able to foster greater adoption of OER as well as other digital resources? And I think the way we need to look at this is that it's all about value. You know, digital content is all about value. It's about the value to the teacher. It's about the value to the student. It's about the value to the institution. And we really need to move ahead in all of these dimensions. And I think OER is in a great position because it's already ahead in terms of some key aspects such as cost and sharing. So the prognosis is good, but that's only one issue. There's also issues of the quality of the content, the ease of use. Can the teacher get data and insights from the use of the content that help them actually teach in what they're trying to do? Can the content run on all the different platforms that students care about today? Is it engaging content? Can the student self-assess by using the content? And of course, from the institutional point of view, does it work with the stuff that institutions tend to have today on their campuses?
So the real question is, IMS definitely has tools, standards that can help with the evolution. Why don't you share a couple of those with us?
Yeah, so what we've been working on in IMS is kind of a family of interoperability standards. Some would call them specifications that really help make things work together and things work across multiple platforms. So we have something called Common Cartridge, which is one way you can develop learning content, digital content, and assessments, and they would literally work in any learning management or course management system. Another one we have is called Learning Tools Interoperability, which is more about kind of the application model. You know, everybody knows about apps and app stores these days. Well, a lot of content is moving to more web-hosted apps or local apps, and this is about an interoperability specification that handles the launching of applications in a seamless way from within an LMS or a portal, and also handles return of information, outcomes data, gradebook information. And for those that want to go even deeper, we have specifications to actually integrate your systems directly into the authoritative student system within the enterprise. So kind of the net of this is that sort of the, kind of the absolute easiest thing to get out of all this is that if you utilize those standards, you develop content one time and it runs anywhere. So we kind of stole the language from Java that people used to use, write once, run anywhere. And but it also provides other value as well because because of the seamless integration aspect, you have a better user experience. Because you're enabling results reporting and interoperable assessments, it means your OER product can now work in tandem with a breadth of other products across the whole set that might be used or plugged into an LMS or portal, improving the quality of the educational experience overall. But of course, because it's write once, run anywhere, you now have lower costs, and therefore you're more sustainable, which is a big issue. So as I said, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, so if you're a developer or user of OER, what are the ways you can go about basically getting the benefits of these interoperability standards?
Yeah, so this is even more of a no-brainer because this stuff used to be kind of hard because you had to know all about the specifications and make it work. But now this stuff is getting built in to products that everybody uses. So it really comes down to making use of products that are in the marketplace and have achieved this little IMS conformance seal that we've shown here. So IMS certifies the authoring tools, some of which are shown here and some of which have been featured in this series. We also certify content. We also certify applications and platforms. And we've issued over 65 such certifications already, and that's just within the last couple of years. It's growing very, very rapidly. So at one level, really, all you have to do is look for the certification and use stuff that's certified, and those products will help you create certified content and so forth. So it's really easy. We also have a free and open content validator, so you can actually test common cartridges online and get immediate feedback. And for the list of the certified products, it's this URL at the bottom of the page. So for all of you out there that are developing OER, what we're hoping here is that these interoperability standards will help you move farther and faster and really be kind of a force multiplier for what you're trying to do. Thanks.
Super. Great. Thank you, Rob. Steve, I think we need to now move over to Jeff Kane.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jeff Kane.
Super.
I'm at I'm at College of the Redwoods, and I should probably upload my presentation here.
Oh, that'd be great.
And let's see. Okay, there we go. Show my screen. Let me get all of my lovely email off of here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about open textbooks here at College of the Redwoods, because we do have an unusual situation here in a number of ways. And as far as like models of content development, I think it's important to keep our particular in mind here. Just some brief history about open textbooks here at College of the Redwoods. I first got involved with it, informally through Merlot, but then became active in CCC OER and their open textbook advocate training. And as I started working here on campus, I was really surprised to find out that there were already 2 completed open math textbooks on campus. And I keep saying another 1 being written, but I know that there's a couple. Let me send you this URL out here of these textbooks. So it should show up in your chat if you want to take a look at what the math department is doing. It's really interesting, the main reasons why our math department got involved in creating their own textbook wasn't really the price at first. The main problem was that all the current textbooks were inadequate to our unique situation here in Humboldt County. And what that means is that we had a lot of, our students had a lot of catching up to do. The high school programs, for instance, had to cancel their calculus program. So, we set up a series of calculus classes, and it was not just for high school students, but there was also a need for local engineering companies, etc., were interested in this. And then a lot of the online versions and electronic textbooks, we had some access issues because not all of the computers that we have here. We have a very low technology infrastructure, lots of old computers, old networks, Windows XP, Windows 2000, that kind of thing. You know, we're modernizing, we're building up, but in the meantime, we need things to be as accessible as possible. And then finally, there were economic and ethical questions that came up. Excuse me one moment. So what happened was we had probably all of this, you know, all of these different models at one time or another taking place on campus. So we had, you know, single authors working on materials. We have, of course, people working with corporate materials, and finally, the thing that really kind of worked for us was actually having everyone work together to do this, because I don't think any one person could have developed these textbooks. The textbooks that we're using are created using Perl script, LaTeX, and one or two other programming languages. So you notice that I didn't say Adobe or SoftChalk. These are people that are actually, you know, creating PDFs using these coding environments, and that's how this this textbook is being authored. I've been to a couple meetings to just have them explain to me how how these textbooks are being created. And I think I still have one more meeting to kind of figure it out. So it's like we're just kind of, this method is that they're using in the math department is the opposite of SoftChalk. So if it's excruciatingly hard, then it was created in our math department. And there are easier ways to do things, because we use SoftChalk in our department for course materials and for websites. But that's not how our math people work. So they have right now we have an intermediate algebra book and a pre-algebra, and they're working on a third. The whole idea was to keep the costs down, make something that was easy for them to update and easy for them to integrate with their testing and assessment system. So
Jeff,
each,
you have 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. So each one of these textbooks include a testing environment, because it was built using the same code that the testing environment was created from. Let's see. So then we do have more faculty who are interested in working with open textbooks. And what we find is that when the faculty understand the economic issues with our students, when they see what other instructors are doing, and they see how effective customized OERs can be over traditional textbooks, and once they understand what materials are available and find the support that they need through our department and through organizations like College Open Textbooks, then we're going to be seeing more adoptions on this campus. Also, if you want to follow our progress, I'll be posting links to our projects on the wiki and also at my blog. Thank you very much.
Perfect, great. Thank you so much, Jeff. So, Steve, it seems like we're having a... Oh, good. There you are.
Yeah, I turned my mic off and I forgot to have it off. I'm going to make me the organizer for just a quick moment, because I want to launch a poll, get a sense from folks about what the familiarity is with the various products that we are talking about today. And then once we get that done, I will turn it over to Phil, who's going to talk about Merlot's Content Builder and the Cal State System's Affordable Learning Initiative and Pachyderm. So that will be our next topic. But let me get a few of you, about a third of you have voted, so let me allow the rest to do it, and while they're voting, I'm going to turn the presenter piece over to Phil. And so you can take over the desktop and give folks a moment to fill in the poll, and then you can take off and start running.
Okay.
Okay, we've got 2/3 of the folks. Let's give people another few seconds, and then I'm going to shut down the poll and we will share it. So I'm going to close the poll.
I have to tell you, Steve, you're absolutely right. The attentive level of the audience goes up so significantly when you say, hey, you got to go and do something.
So here we go. Interesting data. I think a lot of these folks come in here from having received SoftChalk emails, but the awareness of IMS Global, College Open Textbooks, Connections, and Merlot. Merlot is right next to SoftChalk with awareness of our audience. Okay, nice to know who is joining us. If we have time later on, I'm going to ask you which of those technologies you're actually using. So at the moment, I'm going to hide that, and Bill, can you take it over?
Sure. And are you able to see my PowerPoint now?
No. You should have gotten a question saying, show my desktop. Let me take the organizer thing back, and then I will hand it back to you and make sure you see it. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay. And I'm trying to get a hold of my wild mouse here and move on. I also am glad to be with everybody, and I guess I'm still looking at not getting it on the right monitor.
We are seeing it, but we are seeing it in not in display mode.
How's that? Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Well,
Perhaps.
Thank you, Steve, and it is good to be with everyone here. Just as a way of introduction, I am with Merlot, Director of Educational Partnerships and Planning. I used to be with the Oklahoma State Regents, the State Coordinating Board, and was the Chief Academic Officer there. Before that, I spent a number of years at community college in Oklahoma as the Director of Instructional Services and Distance Learning. So I've been working in some of these fields since before we called it distance learning and since before this thing called the Internet. So I'm kind of an old dog. Merlot, many of you know, is primarily emphasizing discovery of resources and sharing of those resources. You know, collection now of over, I think, 27,000 materials, including over 2,000 open textbooks that are part of the collection. But over time, we recognized that there were some resources that people weren't finding in Merlot and that they wanted to be able to create, so we began to look into content development and authoring. At first, just very briefly, there are different ways that faculty author, as you know. Some, it's in the scholarship of the discipline through the research or scholarship of teaching. What we're looking at primarily today is this teaching of within the discipline, so creating resources and authoring resources such as open educational resources.
Phil, we have a quick, we're not seeing your PowerPoint in display mode. We're seeing it, you know, in authoring mode, if you will.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what you can do to put it into display mode. The view button should give you that option.
I'm seeing it in my secondary monitor that way. Let me.
Yes, right. I think that's the problem. I think the secondary monitor, we are not seeing the secondary monitor. We're only seeing.
A good question for our dry run from now on.
Yes, right. Nope, I think we're just going to have to do it this way because otherwise we don't have time to fix this problem. It appears.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. That's much better.
Okay, well, we'll try to make do. I'm sorry for that. So if I can go on, if that's visible enough anyway.
Yes.
I think one of the questions that does come up in terms of OER and creation of new content, this idea of improving efficiency through reuse. You do want to, before you build, look or review at what is available either for purchase or for open use through OER. And in some cases you may find that there is good quality content there that you can use and reuse without authoring something new. But if nothing else, you can find models of things that would help you decide on what it is that does need to be authored. In the case of Merlot, and I will be talking a little bit more about the Affordable Learning Solutions campaign, one of the things that we developed is this OER finder that allows users to go in, put in an ISBN for a textbook, and get a yield of a search of related online resources through Merlot and other places that could be helpful to either supplement or substitute for the text. So this idea of discovery does help in terms of deciding what kinds of content is needed. And you can also look in lots of different places. Merlot is one, Connections, OER Commons, a number of those repositories out there. And things like federated search, where you can search across multiple libraries, makes that much easier and convenient. So, but also something else related to authoring is that you do, when one does author content, develop content, you're doing it for others, and so you always want to be thinking about things like the context for student learning, the student learning outcomes related to a course or program, its usability, how easy is it to use, how effective, certainly accessibility, addressing the needs of other learners and their various levels of need, and then obviously we want things to be shareable and open rather than behind firewalls. So Merlot, I guess it was in 2009, there was a development tool that the Carnegie Foundation had supported called the Keep Toolkit, and they had kind of got it started and they were looking for a place where it could continue. Merlot began hosting and supporting it and rebranding it the Merlot Content Builder. And it's easily discovered off of the Merlot webpage, either through that box on the left of our page where you can learn more about Content Builder, or people that join Merlot and log in can access the Content Builder also from that page once they're logged in. There are all kinds of how-to videos and how to create content using the tool. And this is just a screenshot of what one would see, and basically what Content Builder is. It's consists of tools to develop web pages around a title box plus additional boxes that can be arrayed out on a page and displaying either text or graphical images in different ways. It supports a number of different file types. You can include alt tags so that when a cursor rolls over an image, it can have a text that's related to that. It also supports, and we have, strongly advocate for the use of Creative Commons license. And as Rob mentioned, it also the common cartridge is one of the options in terms of creating the content. So we are hoping that people who develop content are going to make it open and usable for others, as well as interoperable through things like Common Cartridge. And we have a number of templates out there. This helps people from just starting from scratch. This is an example of a template that Jerry Hanley developed for the Tennessee Board of Regents. They have a very large effort promoting mobile learning and use of mobile applications. So this was a template to help faculty members on how to teach and use mobile apps, and this was developed using the Content Builder.
You've got about another minute, Phil?
Pardon me?
You have about another minute or so.
Okay. So it's very easy to add text through the Content Builder. Adding images as well, it's very intuitive, easy to do a number of different file types supported. And within Merlot, lots of different examples of people who've used Content Builder to do very simple things about how to use certain resources in teaching and learning and be able to describe how those tools are used. Students also use Content Builder to do things like e-portfolios. And we also have lots of different examples of how the tool gets used to support lesson plans, e-learning portfolios, reflection, tutorials, presentations, and so forth. Now, there is another tool that we use, and this is referenced the Affordable Learning Solutions. And on that page, the ALS page, there is a tab for authoring content. And you get there, and you can see we do promote the use of Creative Commons, and also we list a number of authoring tools. The first one is Pachyderm, but if you scroll down the page, you can also see links to Merlot Content Builder, Connections authoring tools, as well as our partner SoftChalk. Pachyderm is a server-based development tool that was developed through a partnership, the New Media Consortium and the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. They received a grant to develop this. It's very good at organizing video and digital resources. In the case of the Merlot Elixir, it's been used to develop digital video case stories. And it's an excellent way to provide discipline-specific and pedagogical topics and organizing and assembling video. And those are resources that are easily accessible through Merlot as well as through the ALS site. And so I encourage participants to go and check it out at the OER Finder as well as these other development tools. And thanks, Steve. Sorry that it was kind of awkward start there.
It's okay. It's okay. We got where we needed to be. I'm going to take back the presenter's piece because, as I indicated previously, we actually have had a conflict with the folks from Connections. So Daniel Williamson created this video. It's a 4-minute video, and I'm going to play it for you now. Takes a moment to get started. I hope it's loud enough that you can hear.
Welcome to Connections. Connections is a place where you can view and share educational materials made of small knowledge chunks called modules. These modules can be organized as courses, books, or reports, and anyone may view or contribute to Connections. In order to get started authoring on Connections, you will need an account. Go to cnx.org and click the Get an Account link. Fill out the Request a Connections account form and agree to the site license. Once you fill out the form, an email will be sent to you, and you will need to click the link confirming your account. Now you should be ready to get started authoring on Connections. To get started authoring, log into your account. Provide your username and password and click Login. Authoring on Connections is easy. During this tutorial, we are going to use a 3-step process to create a new module. In step 1, we will author our new content in Microsoft Word. In step 2, we will create a new module on Connections. Then finally, we will import the content we created in Microsoft Word to the new module. Using Microsoft Word, you can create a basic Word document to import into Connections. You can include many styling features in your Word document, including bold, italic, and underlined text, lists, images, tables, and even headers. To create a heading, select heading 1, 2, or 3 from the Styles menu. You can do all of this styling in Word just as you normally would when editing a Word document. Once you are done editing, save your document as a 1997 to 2003 Word doc, not a docx file. To do this, click File, Save As, and make sure you select 1997 to 2003 document. Now, back on Connections, log into your account. Once you're logged in, you'll be redirected to the My CMX tab. Click Create a New Module. You will be prompted to agree to the license. Next, it will ask you to provide some new metadata for your document. Right here, we're going to add the title. You can select the subject, provide some keywords, and also a brief summary. Click Next. Now you have created a new module. This module is called My First Import. In order to import your document to Connections, click this drop-down menu, select Microsoft Word, and then click Import. Next, click Browse, select the document that you created, and click Import. Once your import has completed, you can see that the headers were maintained. We have our bold, italic, and underlined text. Lists are fine. Images came through nicely. And we even have a table. Once you are satisfied with your document, we can move to publish it. Up at the top, you'll see a tab that says Publish. Click this. Add a description of your changes. And click Publish. Next, Connections will ask you to confirm that you are ready to publish your module. Click Yes, Publish. After your module has been published, it will be live for viewing online, in print, and also in the EPUB format. Congratulations, you've finished publishing your first module on Connections.
Well, that was an interesting adventure. I hope that the video and the audio both came through. I got some feedback saying that the audio was working well, because that was an issue during our rehearsal. And now it is my turn. And one of the things I want to talk about is SoftChalk. There's a couple pieces of SoftChalk, but one of the interesting things listening to Daniel's presentation is, yes, you can start creating your document in Microsoft Word exactly as you did with, as Daniel showed you, and then import it into SoftChalk in a slightly different way, which I'll show you in a second. But SoftChalk's a desktop authoring application. It runs in Windows and Mac, and Macs as well. It creates content in a web format. Much of what you're seeing in the other authoring modes are not creating web pages that can be interactive. That's where SoftChalk really aligns itself and gives you additional options. Students view it in web browsers. So all the major web browsers, student can view it in. And about 80% of our clients actually have a learning management system. So they augment the kind of content they create in learning management system with the content in SoftChalk. And SoftChalk creates a lot of content, can be seen we have mobile options, etc. This year we created something called SoftChalk Connect. Actually, it's been around for a couple of years. We've added Connect Plus, which gives an enhanced version right now. But SoftChalk Connect is a learning object repository. And the reason it's important here, and I'll show you in a second, is that it gives you an ability to really enhance the content you're creating. So I am going to jump quickly into, if I can get it done, there we go. I'm going to show you a Word document. Remember, that's what Daniel did. It's kind of a handout, and I'm going to select it all. I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to go into SoftChalk. It looks like kind of a WYSIWYG editor, and I don't have much time, and I want to turn it over to Jackie, because what you're going to see when Jackie takes over is what you can do with SoftChalk content. She will start, and she'll talk to you about Sherlock Holmes text that's out of copyright, which makes it really cool. And she enhanced it in some amazing ways. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to copy and then paste that content in. It converts it. I'm going to make it a couple of web pages. I'm going to insert a page break and make it a 3-page Word document someplace. Where should I put that third one? I'll put it right here. Insert a page break. Now, I really want to make this really cool. I want to show something that is really kind of exciting. I want to show a video of the eye. Now, one of the nice things I can do is I can go to the tool menu and use the media search tool and basically say, I'm going to SoftChalk Connect for some eye anatomy content. And I can find all kinds of things in SoftChalk Connect, learning activities, quizzes, full lessons, etc. And let's say I said I can look at Merlot for content there. And I wanted YouTube because I really want a video. So I'm just going to line all these things up, say search. It automatically goes out there, finds all kinds of content in Merlot that I can link up to. There are lessons already there in SoftChalk, but there's also some activities. I'm going to choose one. I'm going to insert it. Okay. And then I'm going to go directly to YouTube and see if I can find an eye. I'll pick any one of these just for the point, just in order to make the point. I'll insert it. I'll say okay. I'll close it, and I will save this as a eye lesson. Save it. Oh, yeah, let me do something else. Let me go up again. Eye lesson 2, because I don't want to delete one that I've already created. And it saves it. And I will preview it. And there is the lesson. And if I go to page 2, you will see that it includes a learning activity, the corneas here, etc., that SoftChalk created, and the video from YouTube. So there's a lot you can do to make it really exciting. I would just want to show you how easy it is, and then I'm turning it over to Jackie to really talk about what you can do to create an open educational resource with SoftChalk's help.
Okay,
Jack?
so here I am. Can everyone hear me and see my screen yet?
Yes, we can.
You can see my screen. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is a couple of open courses I developed and how I use SoftChalk to develop a reader. Working with other faculty in the English department, one of the things that everyone was the most concerned about with textbooks is how we were going to get adequate reading samples for the students that would be engaging and as good as what we get in textbooks. And one of the things I started with was the idea of using texts that were in public domain. And I was working on a developmental level pre-composition reading course for college. And this was part of the grant, which was the Open Course Library grant being run by the state of Washington. And what I decided to start with after consulting with some other experts is to use detective fiction because that was particularly good for teaching critical thinking and critical reading skills. And so I took the Sherlock Holmes short stories and I developed a reader. And I wanted to show you the platform first. This is in Angel. You can see if I click on the course reader, and it disappeared. Oh, there it goes. And then it says, 5 stories, course reader online. And when you click it, what happens is you don't get the SoftChalk. It opens it up as in a browser. And I set the settings in Angel so that it actually opened up in Angel, although it could actually have been asked to open up a new browser window. So we come right to the table of contents. And each one was 5 short stories, and each one came with a quiz. So I was just going to start with one of the short stories to show you what I did with it. Now the text I got straight from Project Gutenberg, so I did not have to type this text in any way. I just put it into a Word document. And then from the Word document, I started adding objects using the SoftChalk tool. So for each of the stories, there's audio files here, which is somebody, also from Project Gutenberg, reading the text so the students can choose to listen to it as they're reading themselves, because some students find that very helpful for their learning style. And then what I did to make the reading more interactive and, for the students, but also was a better tool, was I illustrated it, but I also annotated it, and I wanted to show you some examples of that. So most of the illustrations you're going to see are illustrations from the Strand magazine. But the one thing that I came across, because this text is about 130 years old, is that some of the terms that they used that were common at the time of the stories are no longer common today. For instance, one of the first I came across was the idea of a bohemian soul. And not only is Bohemia no longer a country anymore, but the meaning of that has largely been lost, especially for beginning college students who are not particularly well read. And so if you put your mouse over it, any of these terms in blue, you get these pop-ups that give you a definition. Now, I tried to stick purely to words that could not be found in the dictionary or were difficult to explain. For instance, this one was talking about buried among his old books, an alternating week from week between cocaine and ambition. And then there's a note that says, you know, Holmes did occasionally use cocaine, but it notes that cocaine was legal during the period that the stories took place. And so the students who read that and might be confused about that would have a better understanding. Other things I did were objects that appeared. For instance, they talk about a gasogene, which is something that we don't use anymore. So I could include an image of a gasogene here, which, again, when you put your mouse over it, you get an explanation of what it is, and then also a little definition here. And so this basically how the entire reader goes. And I'm just going to scroll through quickly so you can get an idea about the kinds of images, things, hotels that are still in existence that they were talking about in the stories. And then at the end of each story, as I scroll down, there's a quiz. And this was not a 4-graded quiz, although you can tie these to the Gradebook. These were formative to see how well they were doing. So they could click on these, and it would give them options to see, you know, how well did they read it. And then if they were getting a lot of these wrong, then they could then, you know, go back and reread that section again. Now, this took me quite a while to develop because this was the first time I used SoftChalk. But then I was doing another project over the summer for a much lower level developmental education course. And I decided I was going to try it again. And this time I decided I was going to use the Hound of the Baskervilles. Again, Project Gutenberg, so I could just import the text directly into Word. This is the course. I'm actually teaching this right now. It's 15 chapters from the Hound of the Baskervilles. I'm in a 15-week semester, so we're doing 1 chapter a week. We're right now working on chapter 4. But I want to go ahead and show you just real quick a chapter. You can click on this as the table of contents. It takes a second to load. And it should take me to chapter 6. There it goes. And the students love this. I found out this semester that many of the students are able to actually access this over their phones. And so they're able to read along with this in the computers, but also they can take this with them now, and they're able, because this is just web-based, to actually use their smartphones to go through the text. And here you can see I've included maps. This is what the more would look like, so the students can see what it would look like. And in this case, I gave the students the option of actually reading the hard copy book, or they had the option of using the online reader. And a lot of the students were hesitant with the online reader, but once they started realizing all the extra help that was available, more and more of the students are choosing to use the online reader over the book, which I think is an interesting note about the power of alternative types of textbooks, not just open source ones, but the fact that the students do gravitate to the ones that are more interactive and provide them more information that can help them out. The other thing I wanted to say is that while it took me quite a while to put the first... Yeah?
You have about 1 more minute.
About what?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can wrap this up really quick. Okay. The only thing I wanted to say was that it took me quite a while to do the first. It only took me a week to do the entire count of the Baskervilles because the learning curve with SoftChalk was, you know, once you kind of get it down, and I did the first reader, then doing the second reader, which is so much faster, that I'm actually planning on doing more material for my course next semester, just because the students respond to it so well, and it's such a great tool, especially for my discipline, which is developmental English. So that's actually all I had to say about this and demonstrating this. So if there's anyone that had any questions about this, should leave that up until you're ready to take it back, or if anybody wants to see anything else.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jackie. I think yes, it is on, so people can hear me. I'm going to take the presenter mode back because one of the things I want to make sure everybody sees before they leave here is just sort of contact information, so that as you leave here, you know if you want to get hold of anybody, you can. And I also want to comment, and then we're going to get to the Q&A, because we will take a few minutes with Q&A, and we'll go over a little bit because we did not get this done in the time we had thought we were going to. It took us about 10 more minutes to get through all the content than we had hoped. So, but I just want to remind people that this is the third in the series, and the other two, and this was asked at the top of our presentation, are available as an archive, as a recording on our website. If you go to softchalk.com, Learn More tab, you will find the archives in the Partners tab or in the Innovators tab. So you can find the archive. So let's get with the questions. Mitchell, you want to push us through some of the questions if you can?
Oh, perfect. Actually, this was a great session. We got a lot of questions and some very good constructive feedback, which I will share with the individual presenters directly. I think the one question for Jeff, if you're still around, is the faculty of the Redwoods, is it easy for outside, people who are using your content to make updates, and make updates to the content and make it their own? Or do you actually have to be the faculty member with the source code to make it easy to make changes?
So
can't hear you, Jeff.
for those particular, yeah. Okay. So if you're using the textbook, you can use it chapter by chapter. You can use the whole thing, and but no, editing the thing line by line, that probably isn't the textbook for you. My point is that you can bring people together on your campus to author a textbook, rather than thinking of a textbook as the product of a particular individual.
Got it. And of course, the cool part about every one of the presenters and the list of emails you have, if your question doesn't get answered, please send an email directly to the presenter, because we're all happy to answer questions for you. Phil, I've got a couple for you. Jeff, thanks. I appreciate that. Phil, there's a couple to see what we can do. One is, how many years does OER remain on the Merlot site? And do you require authors to update content to remain on the site?
Well, no, they don't. We don't require them to provide updates. We do have a utility where we make sure that the resources that are linked there are still there, and we have a process that we go through in order, if they move from one place to another, we have a process where we can track it down if it's still available. So when a member of Merlot creates something or discovers something that they think that the rest of the community would be interested in, it goes on there, and it remains there unless somebody says, well, it's no longer going to be available, or it's no longer appropriate, or it could be a case if something goes horribly wrong where the editorial board who curates that particular part of the collection takes it down.
Got it. Well, it sort of leads to the next question, which is there a way to track student satisfaction with the content on the site?
Not on the site. As most people know, Merlot is a referatory, and the metadata that is attached there is part of our collection and part of the Merlot database. But the resources themselves, for the most part, with the exception of the things, for example, created in Content Builder, are housed elsewhere. And so the students who are going to be accessing these resources are accessing the materials in servers, scattered all over or in the cloud, so to speak. So if there are student satisfaction assessments or tools that are built into that, then it would be native with that resource. There are ways that faculty members have found, though, when they use Merlot materials to collect student information, student satisfaction, either through user comments or through other ways like comments within personal collections.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks. And I have one more question for you, but it comes through. I'm going to say that there was a question regarding the connections in Daniel's video of where you can get it, and Una Daly actually found the URL on YouTube and posted it. So if anyone needs a copy of that, that's in the Q&A section, and thanks, Una, for doing that. And then the question was on Merlot, are there online tutorials on how to use various sections of your tool?
Yeah, if at the Merlot homepage, if you go to that box that says Learn More about the Merlot Content Builder there in the upper left, that takes a link to a page that describes Content Builder, its history, something about it, and then also has links on different aspects of how to do this or that within the Content Builder.
Oh, beautiful.
There are also those tutorials in our YouTube channel.
Good, and just a couple more questions. This is sort of a Jacqueline/Steve question, because it's sort of functionality regarding the tool set that Jacqueline made. But one question was very technical. Is this done using basic LTI? How is SoftChalk connected to the LMS? And I don't know if Jacqueline or Steve, either one of you guys want to pick that one up?
I can just say, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What I did was after you create your SoftChalk package and you have all your video and everything, and you basically in SoftChalk you zip it, and then what you do is you go into Angel, which is the one I use for Tacoma Community College, and you just import the zipped file, and it unpacks it for you automatically. It's something similar for Sakai, the Hound of the Baskervilles tool. Same thing. I zipped it. And then I had to actually work with somebody at College of the Redwoods, and they just imported it, and then Sakai unpacked it for me. So that was pretty seamless from my end because SoftChalk sort of zipped and then unpacks everything for you. And then it does export as a common cartridge. So that came up as a question earlier. And then once it's actually in Angel or Sakai, you can export it as a common cartridge from there to share it.
Okay. The other technique for sharing and integrating with learning management systems is through the use of SCORM. SCORM is one of the ways that SoftChalk connects with the gradebooks from the various learning management systems. And basic LTI and the new SoftChalk Score Center, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but that's other techniques that SoftChalk has created to work and interoperate with learning management systems.
Perfect, thanks. And it was interesting. Angel was mentioned a couple of times, and Kim Washington says that Angel is not being supported after 2012. Does anyone want to comment on that?
Well, it's not being supported apparently in the state of Washington, because I think Blackboard announced it's going to support, well, Angel. Angel. No, I think Angel, they committed supporting for several more years. I think it's the state of Washington commitment, and Chris Burrows commented that it'll be 2014 that Blackboard committed to supporting Angel. So I think it's a state of Washington issue.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And once again, any questions that are not answered or addressed, please send email to any of the participants. And so I guess one of the questions, Jacqueline, was can the quiz questions be linked to the Angel Gradebook?
The answer to that is yes, they can. I just chose not to do it for that course because it was supposed to be a self-test for the students. In other courses, it's easy to actually put the quizzes at the end and link them to the gradebook. So you can do that if that's what you want.
Got it. And I want to, Steve, I've got one question specifically for you, but I want to, after we're done with this, I want anyone in the panel who had a comment they want to make or a question that you think should have been asked that hadn't been asked to be prepared. So I just wanted to cue you up. Steve, somebody had asked, and this is a great idea, if you could supply the names and organizations of the attendees. And my private response to this person was, well, I don't know about the names, but certainly the organizations.
I mean, that is part of the issue, of course. I mean, some people want to see it live. Two issues. One is privacy. Does everybody want to know what everybody else is doing? And so there is that concern. And my experience has been that the kind of dialogue that can be created between people sort of keep you away from the content the presenters are doing. So those are two issues. But the privacy issue is really the reason that we don't, make that list available.
It's certainly something to think about, and maybe we have a quick offline conversation. In general, organization is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think I'd want to give out names, but organizations see who was represented. That wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, right. I can't do that live, but probably could do it offline.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I was just wondering, there's a couple comments that just recently came in. Let's see, does SoftChalk create QTL quizzes?
I think that's using basic LTI, and we use basic LTI in our score center, and that's a much longer conversation. And Becker, I can either get back to you, or you can send that question to our help desk, support@softchalk.com, because they're really the people who can give you a definitive response to that.
I think I can answer that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
So this is Rob here. Yeah, Common Cartridge includes within it QTI. So QTI content. QTI is a sub-component. It's for the interoperability of the assessment items and tests. So yes, if SoftChalk tool has past conformance, which it has, I believe that means it is capable of exporting QTI. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's a very, very low probability, because it's also possible they might be ignoring that part of the spec in terms of what they're developing, but I'm pretty sure that's not the case. So yeah, I think the answer is yes, using QTI.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Rob. And actually, thanks for piping up. Does anyone on the panel have a comment or question or an item that we didn't cover in today's session? Well, Stephen, I think you did a great job. We got most of the questions addressed. I appreciate you and SoftChalk pulling this together. It was really informative and got some great feedback from everyone. This is Mitchell Levy from College Open Textbooks. I want to say thank you for participating, and we are around, and as well as anyone in the panelists, to help you when you need it.
Yes, and one more reminder, OER 4, Finding Funding and Resources, is coming up on October 31st on Halloween. So please join us for that as well.
Are we going to wear costumes that day?
Of course. Thanks, everyone.